boils down to one thing. Basically, what do we want? We want our kids to be paying attention to us, and we want them to remember what we want them, what they need to know, right? So I boiled it down to attention and memory. Those are the two little brain aspects we're going to look at. Sometimes I get kids to form two circles in the classroom where they just kind of the outside circle rotates, ask them a question, and they move with different partners. I do carousel where I have 4 stations set up, 4 different groups look at 4 different things, and then have them then have the groups mix, so then they teach each other. So thinking in your lessons, how am I going to get the kids out of the seats? How am I going to get them moving too? Because doodling is actually stimulating their brain, so their brain is not having enough activity, and so by doodling, they're actually keeping their brain engaged, keeping the neurons firing about this. Yeah. Or I also always gave students the right to pass. But even if I say that Gregor is not paying attention, and I say, Gregor, what is this? And he passes, it's elevated his cortisol level a little, and he has probably paid attention for the next little bit, right? So the random picking of students keeps cortisol levels a little elevated, which helps them pay attention. You cannot multitask. Basically, they've done studies on the brain that if you are engaging in 2 activities at once, so the students in my boarding house studying while Facebooking, that every time you add that second task, your your IQ drops 10 points. So they've had kids take IQ tests while sustaining. So you add a 3rd activity, so studying while Facebooking, while talking to your roommate in boarding, you've lost 20. So some kids can do that. They can multitask, but basically what happens in your brain it's like changing channels. So you're studying, and you're in the studying center of your brain, and then to look at the Facebook, you actually have to change the channel. So some people can change channels very quickly, but they do lose cognitive function. Even the best multitaskers lose.
Ground your foot, gaze at the point, maybe 4 feet ahead, keeping the hands out for balance, keeping the shoulders relaxed, keeping the core strong, so navel to the spine. Beautiful. Let's put the palms skyward, and inhale, reach the arms up, keep them wide at first. Sometimes it's nice to rotate the wrists. Students get a lot of wrist stiffness and keyboarding. Yeah, this feels good. And then you can connect those hands up above and bring them down to the chest. So you can find whatever version. Put your hands at the chest the whole time and lift it the whole time. Thinking about balancing, focusing, and opening up the hips and the groin. So let's bring the knees straight ahead, place it down on the mat, shake out the feet.
It's not, servant leadership isn't kind of sitting back and saying, oh, it should be like this, or if I was going to do it, I would do it like this. It's really having high expectations for yourself and acting on those, and then kind of mentoring and coaching and working together in a very collaborative way, with always thinking of making it the best for the group.
In a nutshell, explain what servant leadership is. I basically say that it's an ethical, caring, community-based type of leadership that is centered around caring for people, relationships, and serving the people you're trying to lead and meeting their needs. So the term primus inter pares means first amongst equals. Now that may just, as it rolls off the tongue, sound a bit paradoxical, but I think what it's talking about is when you're leading a group, you're making people feel as though they're equals. And although there is a leader that emerges, that leader is sort of rolling up his or her sleeves and working with people and making them feel as a part of the group and making it a more inclusive process.
I know for me my heart skipped a beat because it resonated so well with what our school is doing. And so when we see kind of the older model of leadership where leaders are born and you've got your school prefects and they're the leaders, and Bob talks about, in the bad old days where there's the cream of the cream and everybody else is supposed to get swept along with those people or look to them as the models. Whereas now, we've got a leadership development program, and we're really looking for opportunities for more students to have authentic experiences, and faculty as well. You know,
a lot of servant leadership surrounds moral education and surrounds character and all those concepts. And this is true at all schools, but I think it's particularly true at our school, because if you look at the language surrounding our vision and our mission, and we have passion and compassion, or we have to lead, to learn, to serve, so we have service and leadership in that vision of our school. In terms of it being a moral endeavor, I think, again, we have to be comfortable with us educating the whole person and talking about moral education. And I think it's something that we can do in all of our different subjects at the school, and I think it is something we do a good job of. And looking at ourselves as moral educators, we have to be comfortable in sort of practicing what we preach, or living an ethical, moral lifestyle. And I look around this room and I certainly feel confident that everyone here does that, but we really have to realize that as teachers we have a profound influence on our students, and that just everything we do in our lives needs to represent good character. And being a person of character is one of the fundamental tenets of servant leadership.